My roommate wanted to upgrade to the latest smartphone model and planned to work as a rental girlfriend during Spring Festival, helping older single men deal with family pressure to get married. Worried she might get scammed, I advised her to be cautious. Eventually, she dropped the idea, but after the holidays, seeing all the money-making posts online made her jealous. She blamed me for blocking her income opportunity and has held a grudge against me ever since. During a club hiking trip, she pushed me off the cliff, leaving no trace of my body. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back to the day my roommate asked if I wanted to rent myself out. I smiled calmly and said, "Whatever makes you happy, spend a few days with them during the new year. Do nothing but help deal with their family's pressure to get married, and you can make a few $1,000. Some men are quite generous. You don't even have to return the red envelopes their elders give you. Do the math. And you're looking at easily making $10,000 in just 3 or 4 days. What a sweet deal." Chloe was practically glowing with excitement, her eyes sparkling with barely concealed anticipation. As my thoughts cleared, I realized I'd been reborn back to the day Chloe asked if I wanted to rent myself out. In her previous life, Chloe came across a post online. The blogger mentioned that she had worked as a rental girlfriend for 3 days during the Spring Festival. 1. On top of the agreed-upon 8,000 yuan, she also received red envelopes and gifts from the man's family and friends, totaling over 10,000 yuan. Chloe was really tempted, so she brought her phone over to ask me. She said, "Young people these days are reluctant to get married, yet family and friends keep pressuring them, so they need a temporary girlfriend to help deal with their families. I rent myself out, he pays, I show up, we part ways after the New Year holidays. Honestly, I'm doing him a favor. Perfect timing too. I can upgrade to the latest phone model right after the holidays." As her roommate and close friend, I was worried she might get scammed. I patiently tried to talk her out of falling for it. "You've never even met this guy. How can you trust his word about being a decent person? What if he's a trafficker trying to kidnap women?" Eventually, she dropped the idea and never brought it up again. When the new semester started after the holiday, she came across that blogger's content again. The post mentioned how the blogger had made another 20,000 yuan using this method. Chloe grew increasingly envious and green with jealousy. "She blames me for holding her back from making money. There aren't that many bad people in the world. I think you're just being paranoid." Even after I gave her that phone for her birthday later on, she still held a grudge against me. During a club hiking trip, she took advantage of me being alone and viciously pushed me off the cliff. Her voice was icy and sinister. "How come you hit the genetic lottery with perfect parents who give you everything, while I have to rent out my dignity just to afford a new phone? Don't think I'm blind. You're handing me this phone while secretly mocking my poverty. You just can't stand seeing me thrive. Go to hell." At that thought, a faint smile touched my lips. "As long as you like it, this time around." I didn't try to talk her out of it right away, and Chloe actually calmed down on her own. She hesitated. "But do you think there could be any danger? What if we get scammed?" I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Look, even she knew there might be danger, but in our past life, I was the one who said those words, and she just naturally blamed all the consequences on me. She even pushed me off a cliff. In all honesty, I can't think of anything I ever did to wrong her. In fact, I considered her my closest confidant. Right after college started, Chloe told me her family favored sons over daughters. Her monthly allowance was only half of what her younger brother received. Meanwhile, I'm an only child from a family that runs a small business, putting us comfortably above middle class. Though I'd never experienced her struggles firsthand, I felt for her simply because we were both young women. Growing up in a family like that and still managing to get into college was no small feat. I'd looked out for her more times than I could count, and in the end, she came to such a gruesome end. Given a second chance at life, I won't make the same foolish mistakes again. I lifted my head to look at her and said quietly, "There aren't that many bad people in the world. I think you're just being overly suspicious." I threw her own words from our previous life right back at her, word for word. Chloe never expected me, who had always been so kind to her, to speak to her like that. Her smile froze on her face, caught off guard, but soon, she reined in her emotions. She turned and clung to my arm, wheedling, "Aren't we good friends? Help me figure this out. What do you think? Should I go or not?" "Close friends, what a joke." Hearing those words from her mouth feels like an insult to the very phrase. I coldly pulled my arm back, repeating the same line, as long as you like it. Seeing she was about to say more, I cut her off before she could speak. You're a grown adult. How can you be so indecisive? Just know what you're doing and have some sense about it. I'm dead. If I get involved with her again in this new life, I'm a fool. I'm curious to see what happens to her in this lifetime without me standing in her way. After being cornered by me time and again, a trace of venomous resentment surfaced on Chloe's face. Why would you say it like that? I shot her a glance. Was anything I said incorrect? Chloe was just about to retort angrily when our other two roommates, Tina and Sophie, returned to the dorm, too. Seeing the two of us huddled together, one of them casually asked, "What are you two talking about?" I didn't give Chloe a chance to speak, immediately jumping in with a smile. Chloe said she wants to rent herself out during winter break, so she can buy a new phone next year. Rent herself out how? She'd be a temporary rental girlfriend for Chinese New Year, helping people deal with relatives nagging them about marriage, clear pricing, clean break after the holidays. Chloe never expected that I would completely disregard her dignity. Her eyes widened in panic as she hastily denied it. No, I didn't say that. Indeed, I'm the only one who truly knows what Chloe is really like. How could she let anyone find out she was renting herself out just to get a new phone, if word got out? She'd be mortified. As she spoke, she kept shooting me meaningful glances. I pretended not to notice and shrugged. But didn't you just say you wanted to go? Chloe shot me a discreet glare before forcing a tight-lipped smile. No, I was just joking with you earlier. There's no way I'd actually go. My two roommates also gave half-hearted advice, saying, "These things are more complicated than they seem. You'd better not get involved." I shrugged. Oh, I see. I must have misheard. Yeah, you misheard. I gave a slight smile. I didn't say anything more, but I knew Chloe hadn't given up on the idea. It just needed one final push. 2 days later, after finishing my last exam, I called my parents from my dorm room. My phone was 3 years old and wasn't performing well anymore. I was talking a bit loudly on the phone. Sophie was still in the dorm, and I didn't want to disturb her, so I started looking for my headphones, but before I could find them, Chloe pushed the door open and came in. I deliberately slowed my movements so Chloe could hear my phone conversation clearly. Dad's voice came through the receiver, unusually clear and dripping with affection. "Now that my good girl's finished her exams, she should relax. Didn't you mention wanting to go somewhere? Dad will cover the trip." I grinned, laying on the sweetness extra thick. Perfect. It's been on my mind all this time. But besides the trip, could I ask for one more reward? Dad chuckled with interest. "What kind of reward?" "I won first prize in the English competition, so I'd like to get a new phone next year." Dad laughed heartily. "Is that all? I thought it was something serious." "It's just a phone, actually. Back when I started college, my dad offered to get me a new phone. But I decided to keep using my old one since it was still working fine. Now that I've been using this phone for over 3 years and it keeps freezing up, it's definitely time for an upgrade." I asked with a playful grin. "So even the latest iPhone would be okay?" "My father has always doted on me." "Of course, sweetheart, you can change whatever you like. When you're back, go pick something out with your mom. Dad's covering the bill." "Thanks, Dad, love you." After hanging up, I noticed Chloe's back stiffen out of the corner of my eye. Even the fist resting on the table was clenched so tightly it turned white. Then, as if having made up her mind, she picked up her phone and started typing away, not wanting to get involved with Chloe's business any longer. I signed up for the school's Dream Chaser team as soon as the holiday started. The Dream Chaser team is the school's youth teaching volunteer group. Every winter and summer break, we organize several volunteer teams to travel to remote regions. We bring warmth and kindness to the children in those mountainous areas. We help them learn about the world beyond their own and fill them with hope for the future. Each morning begins with a chorus of bright, enthusiastic students cheerfully greeting us with, "Good morning, teacher." This was the happiest and most meaningful experience during the teaching volunteer program. Every day was packed, early mornings and late nights. Yet I felt incredibly fulfilled. Everyone on the team was very friendly, and we all supported each other. I didn't wrap up my trip and head home until just before Chinese New Year. The next time I heard from Chloe was on the second day of the Lunar New Year. After dinner, while watching TV with my parents, my phone on the table suddenly rang. The words, academic advisor, flashed conspicuously on the screen. I calmly picked up my phone and walked out to the balcony before answering, in the darkness. My advisor's voice was heavy with a hint of reproach. Yvonne, has Chloe been spending time with you lately? The corners of my lips curved upward in a soundless laugh. Just as I expected, Chloe started selling herself. Almost immediately, I denied it in confusion. No, I didn't. The counselor's voice rose a couple of decibels. 3. What do you mean there isn't? Weren't you two traveling together? When did you separate? And where did she go? I quickly feigned a panicked tone and explained. That's impossible. I spent the entire winter break doing volunteer teaching and only just got home a few days ago. How could I possibly have had time to travel with her? What's wrong, Professor? Is Chloe? Even through the phone, I could tell our academic advisor was pacing anxiously. Chloe never came home. We can't locate her, and her phone is unreachable. But her parents said she went traveling with you. They only asked for your contact because they couldn't reach her these past few days. Turns out Chloe hadn't been home since winter break started. She told her family she was traveling with me as an excuse. Her family never really cared for her anyway, so her absence didn't matter much. But with Chinese New Year approaching and the house needing a thorough cleaning, her parents started grumbling and remembered Chloe. When Chloe didn't answer my calls at first, I thought she was just dodging work. I didn't think much of it. A few more days passed, and she was still unreachable. That's when I asked our advisor for my number, hoping to reach Chloe through me. The counselor naturally wouldn't hand out a student's contact information without good reason, so he asked for details. Little did I know the situation was this serious. That's what led to tonight's phone call. But I'm really curious, what excuse did Chloe use to get her parents to agree to let her travel? Logically speaking, Chloe's parents favor sons over daughters and don't think much of her. They're always looking for ways to exploit Chloe. How could they just let her go off and travel so freely? The counselor's urgent voice echoed in my ears once more. Yvonne, think carefully. Has Chloe been in touch with you lately, or did she mention going anywhere? Did you notice anything unusual before the break? Of course, I didn't hide the fact that Chloe had previously mentioned wanting to rent herself out. As much as I'd love to make Chloe pay dearly for what she did, keeping quiet now would only backfire on me if they find out later. I'm better off coming clean right away. After all, there's no telling if Chloe might show up again. The counselor was both furious and frantic. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I explained innocently. I had no idea she could actually be that foolish. Suspecting that Chloe might be in trouble, the counselor immediately called the police. Of course, no one doubted what I said either. After all, aside from being close with Chloe, I'm also a straight-A student with excellent conduct. My advisor told me to keep an eye on my phone these days, as the police will likely contact me for questioning. I said yes. After hanging up, I gazed into the distance with a faint smile. Chloe, you really didn't let me down. If you blamed me for holding you back from making money in our past life, then this time around, I'll let you chase all the wealth you want. I just don't know if you'll make it back alive. I put away my phone and went back to the living room. My parents noticed I looked pale and asked what was wrong. So I told them about Chloe. It took my parents a good while to collect themselves. Oh dear, what a terrible thing to happen, especially during the New Year festivities. My parents are kind-hearted people. Even the misfortunes of strangers would sadden and pain them. My mother held me close. My sweetheart, the world doesn't hand out free lunches. We should never entertain the idea of taking advantage of others. While we shouldn't harbor ill intentions toward others, we must always keep our guard up. Dad chimed in. That's right, we have both the means and the responsibility to provide for you. If you're ever facing difficulties, you can always come to us, for you're our only daughter. If anything were to happen to you, we wouldn't know how to go on living. Their words left a bitter ache in my heart. My accident in our past life must have devastated them. I wonder if they managed to move on and live well. The more I thought about it, the more Chloe deserved what she got. Don't worry, Mom and Dad, I'll be fine. Because of this incident, they increased my next semester's living allowance by 1,000 yuan. They were worried I might be short on money but too afraid to tell them. And end up like Chloe. The next morning, 2 police officers came to my place to ask me some questions. I held nothing back and recounted every word Chloe said exactly as it happened. Of course, I left out the parts where I deliberately provoked her. I hung my head, eyes downcast, overwhelmed with self-reproach. If I'd known she hadn't given up on that idea, I would have stopped her. We all thought she was joking at the time. Who could have guessed? Who knew she could be so foolish? The officers quickly picked up on the implication in my words and exchanged glances. You all? Who exactly do you mean by, you all? I froze for a second, then looked up at them. They're our dorm mates, mine and Chloe's. The officer snapped back to attention and pressed further. So you're saying everyone in your dorm knew Chloe was going to rent herself out? I shook my head. We all thought she was joking at the time. And Chloe herself said she wouldn't go. The police couldn't verify my word alone. The investigation would focus more on me, but with 2 roommates backing it up, we're all in the same dorm, so it's no surprise they knew about this. My face showed nothing but concern and complete composure. I had no fear of their investigation. The officer nodded and didn't press further. All right, that's all for now. If Chloe contacts you, make sure to let us know immediately, okay? Before they left, I finally voiced the question that had been on my mind. The 2 officers exchanged glances, then gave me a rather peculiar look, but in the end, they did clear up my confusion. Why did Chloe's parents agree to let her go on the trip? The reason is quite simple. Besides telling her parents that I would cover the expenses, Chloe also mentioned that I'm an only child. She said I'm naive and easy to manipulate, and that my family is wealthy. We'll trick her into coming home to be my girlfriend for my younger brother. So my family's money will end up being hers. Her parents aren't exactly good people either. They were all smiles as soon as they heard about this golden opportunity. Not only did they agree to let Chloe go on this trip, they even told her to make sure she stays on my good side. After losing contact with Chloe, they didn't even worry about whether their daughter might have had an accident. Their first instinct wasn't even to call the police. They insisted it was because Chloe and I were too close. They claimed I couldn't bear to let Chloe go home. They only asked the counselor for my contact information to extort money from me. Their excuse was that I prevented Chloe from going home, which delayed household chores, so I had to compensate for the losses. Upon hearing the police's words, my parents' faces changed. Honestly, what kind of people are they? How dare they scheme against my daughter like this? 5. Mom held me close, afraid I'd be upset, but having been through this once before. Why would I be upset? I buried my face in Mom's embrace, appearing distressed while inwardly sneering. Chloe really is constantly scheming against me. I was such a fool in my past life, actually considering her a close friend. How much kindness can you really expect from someone with a black heart? After that, the police questioned Tina and Sophie one after the other. Although their answers weren't exactly the same as mine, they conveyed the same meaning. Everyone thought Chloe was joking and had no idea she'd actually go through with renting herself out. The case was eventually filed as human trafficking. News of Chloe's disappearance spread quickly throughout the class. Plenty of curious classmates came by our dorm to ask what had happened to Chloe. I can't speak for Tina or Sophie, but I didn't breathe a word, just in case Chloe ever resurfaces and accuses me of spreading rumors. That's a lesson I learned the hard way in a past life. Even so, our classmates eventually pieced together why Chloe went missing from the daily scam alert messages our advisor kept posting in the group chat. Many felt sorry for her, though some thought she had it coming. Chloe's carefully crafted image at school as an innocent, gentle flower was completely shattered. After all, it's hard to imagine any sweet, innocent girl renting herself out just for a phone, and in the end, she was trafficked. Right after the semester started, our advisor called a class meeting. Every other sentence was a warning: don't expect free lunches to fall from the sky, drop any wishful thinking and watch out for scams. Back in our dorm, we all tacitly avoided bringing up Chloe. 5. Life went on as usual. Honestly, I even feel like the air has gotten fresher. But who would have thought Chloe would escape so quickly? Chloe walked into the dorm with our advisor just as Sophie and I were getting ready for class. The advisor gave her shoulder a reassuring pat. Chloe, let's put the past behind us, don't dwell on it too much, focus on your studies from now on, and call me if you need anything. Chloe nodded and watched her leave. An awkward tension settled among the 3 people who remained. Chloe had become gaunt, her features sharpened by weight loss, and her eyes held a dim, shadowed look. She stood perfectly still, a sinister smile playing on her lips. What's wrong? Surprised to see me? The timid Sophie shuddered, stammering, and no, not at all. So, when did you get back? Is everything all right? A flicker of something dark passed through Chloe's eyes before her lips curved downward. I'm perfectly fine, she said. She had already spoken with her advisor. They wouldn't disclose her situation. I picked up the book from the table with a faint smile. We're so relieved you're okay. We've been counting the days until you came back. In that case, take your time. We'll head to class first. With that, they walked out of the dorm room without waiting for her reply. Sophie hurried out right after them. When we got to the classroom, Tina had already saved seats for both of us. She was also surprised to hear that Chloe was back. Is she all right? Sophie patted her chest, looking a bit startled. You have no idea. You startled me when you suddenly appeared like that. Seeing how thin she's become, she must have been through a lot. It's been 3 months already. I wonder how she managed to escape. I have to admit, I'm quite curious about it too. Just then, Chloe walked in through the door. She came over to us, seeing there were no empty seats next to us. She frowned and complained with displeasure. Why didn't you save me a seat? Tina saved this seat. She was still reeling from the shock of seeing Chloe. We had no idea you'd be back in class. Chloe turned on me with an accusatory tone. How could you not know? Didn't you and Sophie just find out I was back? The moment she came back, she started picking fights. Everyone in the dorm looked pretty annoyed. I rolled my eyes at her. You never said you were coming to class. Besides, there are still seats in the back. Just grab any spot you want. Seeing the teacher had already stepped onto the podium, Chloe could only stomp her foot in frustration. In the end, she reluctantly found a seat at the back of the classroom and sat down. The day's events were far from over. During the last break, Tina, Sophie, and I were discussing what to have for lunch. Class ran late today, and the cafeteria line is ridiculously long. We still have afternoon classes. Should we just order delivery? I nodded in agreement. Sounds good. We can pick it up downstairs at the dorm after school. Just then, I noticed Chloe standing in the aisle next to my seat. I'll have the same. She's facing me. Yvonne, I'm craving some grilled meat rice. She said it with such entitlement, just waiting for me to order takeout for her. They're blatantly treating me like a cash cow. Wait, that's not right. Wasn't I exactly that in my past life? Truth be told, Chloe's vain nature had been showing for a while. She didn't have much allowance. Yet her clothes were anything but cheap. She even splurged on cosmetics, so much so that she often couldn't afford meals. That left a soft-hearted fool like me feeling sorry for her. I repeatedly invited her to join me for meals and always picked up the tab. At first, Chloe still felt a bit awkward about it. I told her to just think of it as keeping me company over a meal. After a few times, when she saw I never let her pay, she finally relaxed. Eventually, she came to see it as natural that I would pick up the tab. She'd even proactively tell me what she wanted to eat and ask me to order takeout for her. It wasn't until the very end that I realized I was just her meal ticket all along. Every time I think about it, I feel like slapping myself twice. I looked up and shrugged. Of course, feel free to order whatever you'd like, Chloe said in a haughty tone. You order for me. 6. I smiled. Sure. Just transfer me the money and I'll place the order for you. The moment the words were spoken, Chloe immediately bristled with indignation. I have to pay. I thought you were covering it. Our commotion instantly drew the attention of the surrounding classmates. Everyone was clearly itching for some drama. Fortunately, even though I used to treat Chloe to meals quite often, she never mentioned it to anyone, afraid people might think she was taking advantage, so no one else knew about it. That's why when Chloe said that, everyone thought she'd lost her mind. Tina was already annoyed about the seat-hogging incident earlier, and now she didn't hold back in standing up for me. Order whatever you want yourself. If you're not paying, did you think you'd get a free meal? What? Are we your parents or something? Her words left Chloe seething with humiliation, her face turning ashen. I felt an immense sense of satisfaction. Chloe, we're all capable individuals with our own families to support. We're under no obligation to provide for you. If you're struggling, you could take on part-time work to earn money instead of acting entitled and demanding handouts from us. Almost simultaneously, people around her started whispering and pointing. So this is the famous Chloe, that's her. The one who rented herself out for a few $1,000 and ended up getting trafficked. Just look at that shameless face. You can tell she's got no morals. Let's steer clear of her. Yet, Chloe refused to back down. her fists clenched tight. When she turned to look at me again, tears were streaming down her face. 7. Yvonne, I've always considered you a sister. Don't you feel even a shred of guilt toward me? I remained silent. I wanted to see what kind of excuse she could possibly come up with. Chloe whimpered softly, yet her voice carried clearly. If you hadn't talked me into going back then, how could I have ended up like this? I couldn't help but laugh. When did I ever encourage you to rent yourself out? If you can't give me a solid explanation, I have every right to report you to the police for spreading defamatory lies about me. Sure, I did it on purpose, but what proof does she have? How dare someone like her talk to me about guilt? That's absolutely ridiculous. The moment I threatened to call the police, Chloe panicked and got furious. If you hadn't deliberately flaunted your new phone in front of me, would I have fallen for it? I nodded thoughtfully. So you eavesdropped on my call with my parents. But what's wrong with me wanting to upgrade my phone? By your logic, we should hide every nice thing we own. If you happen to see or hear about it, that's us encouraging you to commit a crime. At this, everyone understood. Murmurs spread. So that's how it is. How despicable can someone be? Eavesdropping on a roommate's call is bad enough, but then to blame others out of sheer jealousy and twisted motives when things go wrong, utterly shameless. Guess we'll have to keep valuables out of her sight from now on, so she won't get kidnapped again and blame us for it. Chloe flushed with humiliation, stamping her feet in frustration. Then why didn't you stop me? I let out a helpless chuckle. How was I supposed to know you'd be this foolish? Beside her, Tina and Sophie chimed in. We were all there when you said it was just a joke. How were we supposed to know you'd actually go through with it? Exactly, you only rented yourself out because you wanted a new phone. It's not like Yvonne forced you at gunpoint. We're all adults here. Shouldn't you think through the consequences before making decisions? Since when are we responsible for controlling your thoughts and actions? Tina and Sophie just had hot pot on my scholarship money yesterday. They've eaten my food. So of course they're going to side with me. You all. Chloe didn't expect us to hold back at all. Her eyes widened, face flushing red then paling white in quick succession. Hearing her classmates' undisguised contempt, she turned and spent the entire class period crying with her face buried in her desk. To make matters worse, the teacher called on her specifically. She was humiliated all over again in front of the entire class. I thought this time I had completely burned bridges with Chloe, but she turned out to be even more thick-skinned than I imagined. Within a few days, she bought some snacks and took the initiative to make peace with us. I was in the wrong last time. Those words just slipped out in the heat of the moment. I'm sorry to all of you, and I hope you can forgive me this time. The three of us exchanged furtive glances, each seeing the same confusion reflected in one another's eyes. Still, I wanted to see what other tricks she had up her sleeve, and I was curious about how exactly she managed to escape. I took the out she offered. I looked at her with a smile. I'm glad you see it that way. We are roommates, after all, and we've got 2 more years to live together. Yes, I truly understand where I went wrong. Having gained forgiveness from the three of us, Chloe quickly returned to her old self. She attended classes with us as usual and occasionally joined us for meals. We'd give our approval as long as nothing troublesome was involved. Though unspoken, we all understood not to discuss important matters in her presence. I could tell Chloe was holding back. Knowing her temperament, she must have been plotting something. Before we knew it, May had arrived, and I was delivering a speech as an outstanding student representative at a school symposium. I shared the stage with Henry, the student council president. After it ended, he asked me out to dinner. Before I could respond, Chloe appeared out of nowhere. 8, Vaughn, there you are. She smiled sweetly, as if just noticing someone sitting across from me. Oh, Henry's here too. What are you guys talking about? I discreetly glanced at the overly sweet smile on Chloe's face, then my eyes shifted to the 6'1", handsome and radiant Henry. Now I get it. So Chloe has a crush on Henry. Henry, being outgoing and straightforward, remained completely oblivious to Chloe's feelings. I was just saying I'd like to treat Yvonne to a meal. She helped me find my lost manuscript right before my speech. Oh, I see. Chloe confidently stepped between us and said, Yvonne and I were just about to grab dinner. Why don't you join us, Henry? I could see what Chloe was trying to do, but I had no intention of dragging Henry into this, so I refused without a second thought. No need, Henry. It's really nothing important. Let's skip the dinner. Chloe, You head back to the dorm first. I still need to get the teacher's signature. With that, I walked off with the documents in hand. Chloe stayed behind, looking at Henry with hopeful eyes. Since Yvonne isn't joining us for the meal, how about just the two of us go? His expression changed in a flash. One moment it was Yvonne, and the next he was calling her by her full name. Henry turned her down without a second thought. No thanks, Junior, I'm sticking with my roommate. A few people nearby seemed to have noticed what was happening. After Henry left, they snickered in Chloe's direction. Chloe's knuckles turned white from clenching her fists, her face dark and menacing. She stood in silence for a long moment before finally leaving the auditorium. These past few days, I've constantly felt Chloe's gaze on my back, cold and eerie, like a venomous snake, but when I looked directly at her, she just flashed me a cheerful grin. Around others, she still acted like we were the best of friends, yet I had a gut feeling she was brewing up a storm. It didn't take long before I figured out what she was plotting. In the theater troops group chat, the president brought up the idea of going hiking together for our team building event next Saturday. They asked who wanted to sign up. In my previous life, it was during this very outing that I met with misfortune. The difference was, in that lifetime we hiked during the day and returned by evening. We're doing a night hike to catch the sunrise and won't be back until the next day. Chloe's in the same club as me, and she saw the message too. She came over grinning, phone in hand. Yvonne, are you joining the hike on Saturday? When she smiled at me, she looked like an innocent girl without a hint of guile. Had I not experienced it before, I'd never have imagined she could be as cold-blooded and venomous as a serpent. I knew that dark thought was festering in her mind at that very moment. Just like in our previous life, she wanted to push me off the cliff. After a moment of silence, I nodded. Let's do it. Rather than constantly watching my back around her for 2 years in college, I'd take the initiative and set a trap. 9. Expose her true colors. Before we knew it, Saturday had arrived, and 13 club members had signed up for the trip. We set off from the school gate at 5 in the afternoon. Our destination was Qingyun Mountain, the most famous peak in the city. Renowned for its breathtaking sunrise views from the summit, despite the darkness, our group's spirits were high as we chatted and laughed our way up the mountain trail. Chloe naturally fell into step beside me, pairing up with me without hesitation. I didn't object. We reached the summit at just 2 a.m., with plenty of time before sunrise. Everyone gathered in a circle, snacking and playing games together. The club president let everyone do their own thing until 4 a.m. Before long, Chloe quietly came up to me. Yvonne, I dropped my phone while I was wandering around earlier. Could you help me look for it? I glanced at her pocket and didn't see the outline of a phone there. How did it fall off? I don't know either. Yvonne, could you please come help me look for it? She tugged at my arm, pleading in a hushed voice. I stared straight into her eyes without saying a word. Just as Chloe was feeling guilty and wondering if I had noticed something, I nodded in agreement. All right, let's go. She was overjoyed. Perfect. I knew Yvonne would come through. I followed her in one direction. She was putting on quite the act. I kept my eyes on the ground as I walked. That's strange. How could it not be here? After searching for 10 minutes, I found the path ahead had come to an end. I turned and called back to Chloe behind me. There's no way forward. Let's turn back. Chloe cast a lingering glance at the pitch-black, bottomless cliff behind me. She walked toward me with a sinister smile. Yvonne, you know what? I've always disliked you. How come you hit the genetic lottery with awesome parents, while I have to rent out my body just to afford a new phone? Then I ended up crossing paths with human traffickers. If I weren't incredibly lucky, I never would have made it out alive. I stood at the edge of the cliff, feeling a wave of fear. What are you talking about, Chloe? It's all in the past now. You can let go of those memories and start fresh. Chloe burst into hysterical laughter, as if she'd just heard the most absurd joke. Let go? No, there's no going back. She let out an eerie chuckle. You know what? I've already killed him. Every time I relive it in my dreams, I jolt awake in terror. And I have you to thank for all of this. My eye twitched, and I blurted out, my voice catching. Who did you kill? Chloe moved closer to me, step by deliberate step. The old bastard who tried to sell me off. Of course, one more corpse won't make a difference now. The moment Chloe got close to me, a vicious glint flashed in her eyes as she violently shoved me over the cliff edge. Two voices cried out simultaneously. One came from me as I fell off the cliff. There was another one. It came from behind Chloe. Realizing someone else was there, Chloe spun around sharply. His face went deathly pale the moment he saw the company president and vice president approaching with two police officers in tow. His legs gave way and he collapsed to the floor. No, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I had already sent a message to the president before stepping out. I asked him to help me look for my phone under the pretense that it was for Chloe. But my real intention was to make him witness this whole scene and become my alibi. 10. I also kept him on the phone the entire time, and the spot where I was standing wasn't actually a cliff at all. Below the slope lies a flat area. As a local, I've hiked Mount Qingyun over a dozen times since childhood and know the summit terrain quite well. I deliberately chose to stand in that exact spot. The darkness, combined with Chloe's nervousness while doing something wrong, kept her from noticing. I honestly didn't expect the police to show up. While Chloe was being taken away, I was rescued as well. The police took me to the hospital and contacted my parents. Fortunately, I only had a mild concussion and a sprained ankle, nothing too serious otherwise. That's also when I realized why the police had shown up at the peak of Qingyun Mountain. Chloe really did kill someone. Back when she listed herself for rental on the platform, someone contacted her almost immediately. The man looked quite refined and didn't seem like a bad person at all. He said he was into guys and worried his family would disapprove, so he thought of hiring a fake girlfriend to placate them. He even offered to leave his ID with Chloe as collateral and paid a 2,000 yuan deposit up front. The money-hungry Chloe didn't think twice and happily followed him back to his rural hometown. She assumed country folks were simple and honest, not the type to have ulterior motives. The moment she stepped inside, she was tied up. They knocked her out cold and smuggled her out of the village overnight. After being shuffled from place to place, she lost all sense of which mountain region they'd taken her to. By the final handover, only a man in his 50s remained guarding her. She took advantage of a bathroom break to knock the man unconscious. With a rock larger than her palm, she struck him over a dozen times. Initially just rendering him unconscious, she grew fearful he'd resume chasing her upon waking. Resolutely, she delivered the fatal blows. The police weren't called until someone discovered the body recently. The investigation led straight to Chloe. That's what prompted us to pursue her to the mountaintop. To our surprise, we witnessed her committing another murder. My parents refused to grant forgiveness, insisting that Chloe face the full consequences of her actions. At the police station, Chloe broke down in tears, saying she regretted what she had done, but it was too late for remorse. 11. In the end, Chloe was sentenced to life in prison. Let's just consider her long years in this prison as atonement for her sins. As for me, I still have a bright future ahead. The end. Story 2. I was reborn before the end of the world arrived. I didn't hoard supplies or build a safe house. Instead, I contracted to manage the largest zoo in the whole city. Everyone thought I was crazy. Only I knew that in 3 days, all living things would be resurrected. And these animals would be the only life-saving cards for humans. 1. I was reborn 3 days before the end of the world came. In my previous life, when all living things were resurrected, all the animals mutated, and the whole world was in chaos. I originally had a golden retriever named Jojo that I had raised for 5 years to protect me. But my overly kind-hearted younger sister drove it out on the grounds that someone in the safe house was afraid of dogs. In the end, Jojo and I died under the attack of a group of beasts, but unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes, I was back 3 days before the end of the world started. When I woke up, Jojo rubbed its fluffy head against me. I couldn't hold back my tears. Jojo had been timid since it was a puppy. It would even crawl into my arms to hide when there was thunder, but in the end, it firmly lay on top of me, allowing the beasts to bite it while trying to protect me, as if it could sense my sorrow. Jojo whined a few times, and its pitiful eyes seemed to be comforting me. Can you make this beast of yours stop barking? I can't even read my book. My bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. The moment I saw my younger sister, a surge of hatred welled up in my heart. Yes, Cora is preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. What on earth are you thinking? My stepmother also walked in. Her overbearing manner made it seem as if this was her home if one didn't know better. But this was my home. Jojo shrank towards my bedside in fear. because Cora was preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination, my stepmother and she had been living in my house for a week after coming from the county. I originally thought of tolerating them for a while to avoid trouble, but they became more and more presumptuous, giving orders about JoJo every day. Later, I couldn't stand it anymore and drove them out. But I didn't expect that the end of the world arrived that day. And more ownerless animals went on the rampage and attacked people. After discovering that JoJo also had special abilities, my stepmother and Cora immediately changed their attitudes. At the critical moment of life and death, I softened my heart and took them to the safe house with us. Amelia, did you hear what I said? That person is willing to pay 500 yuan for your stupid dog. Hearing this, I came back to my senses and without hesitation picked up the rubber stick I usually use to train JoJo. Perhaps they didn't expect me to make such a bold move. My stepmother watched as the stick landed on her. This kind of stick hurts the most when it hits the body, but it doesn't cause serious damage. My stepmother let out a scream. Without a moment's hesitation, I turned around and whipped Cora with the stick. For a moment, the mother and daughter were screaming continuously. I swung the stick with all my strength, hitting them again and again until I was out of breath and stopped. The incident happened so suddenly that the room was in chaos immediately. My stepmother was shaking from the beating and looked at me with fear all over her face. You're crazy. Just you wait for me. Before she could finish her words, I whipped her with the stick again. I kept hitting her with the stick as if I really wanted to kill her, one stick after another, until my stepmother could no longer make a sound. Cora was already scared out of her wits beside her, shrinking her neck with snot and tears all over her face. I was gasping for breath and saw myself in the mirror, with disheveled hair and red eyes. I looked no different from the murderers shown in TV dramas. I really wanted to kill them, but I couldn't, in this life. Both JoJo and I were going to live well. I pointed the stick at Cora. Take your mother and get out. Cora was originally full of fear. Suddenly, she closed her eyes, but then opened them again with a start. In an instant, her whole demeanor changed. She was trembling and crawling forward as if possessed. Sister, I and Mom were wrong. Don't drive us away. I couldn't help frowning. Cora had grown up under the love of our parents and had been arrogant since childhood, logically. She wouldn't beg me, seeing that I was unmoved. She actually crawled towards JoJo. A person who used to hate dogs the most was now getting close to JoJo on her own initiative. JoJo, protect me, don't come near me. I have JoJo to protect me. My brows furrowed tightly. My stepmother stared at this scene with her mouth wide open, clearly not knowing what was going on. Looking at her like that, there was only one reason. She was reborn too. JoJo was very resistant to her and had been forced into the corner, but whether she was reborn or not, she had to get out of my house now. I was afraid I couldn't really control myself. I grabbed her hair and dragged her out without giving her a chance to explain. My stepmother tried to separate us, but she was too scared by my gaze to move, and Cora was screaming for JoJo like a madwoman. I dragged Cora into the corridor, then pushed my stepmother out, and quickly threw their luggage out of the door like garbage. Finally, I picked up a kitchen knife and came out fiercely. Get out now, or I'll kill you. Seeing my kitchen knife, my stepmother didn't even dare to say harsh words. She was so scared that she quickly pulled the still somewhat crazy Cora and ran away, not even having time to take their luggage, too. After they left, I didn't have time to care about the messy room. I took out all the valuable things and left the house with JoJo. There was a real estate agency downstairs. I handed the property ownership certificate to the young man from the agency and was willing to sell the house at a price 20% lower than the market price, as long as the full payment could be made as soon as possible. My mother died early, and my father remarried in less than a year. This house was an off-plan property that my grandfather bought for me when he was still alive. The price wasn't high at that time, but unexpectedly, several schools moved to the nearby area after the house was completed. The housing price also rose accordingly. Occupying the school district made it even more difficult to find a house. Where there is a stepmother, there is a stepfather. My father had set his eyes on this house of mine countless times. Fortunately, my grandfather had anticipated this. The house had been in his name all the time and was transferred to my name last year after my grandfather passed away. I rented a high-end homestay for 3 days and settled JoJo there first. I needed a lot of money now. I quickly sold all my gold and silver jewelry and handbags. After turning them all into cash, the young man from the agency also brought me some news. The house was sold even more smoothly than I had imagined. In just one afternoon, the transfer and transaction were all completed, and 16 million yuan in cash was deposited into my card. With this money, I went to the department in charge of the zoo. At the beginning of the year, the Forestry Bureau had issued an announcement. Hardly anyone paid attention to that announcement, and I only saw it by chance. In order to support wild animals, the whole city launched a public welfare activity for contracting the wild zoo, but the price for contracting it for one day was really too high, and apart from a medal and a certificate, there was nothing else to gain. In fact, it was no different from making a donation. Since the beginning of the year, no one had contracted it yet. In my previous life, that wild zoo had no owner. When the end of the world arrived, it was simply a living hell. The animals ran out and destroyed everything without restraint. I don't know how many people died at their hands. Before the Forestry Bureau got off work, I took the money and quickly went to contract the zoo, to prevent any changes. I paid for 2 days and contracted the zoo for the 2 days when the end of the world would arrive. I laughed out loud holding that personal contracting certificate, while the staff looked at me like I was a fool. "Miss, are you very rich?" I smiled and shook my head. "Then do you need a gimmick for your business?" I still shook my head. The young man hesitated a bit. Finally, he quietly pulled me aside and said, "Actually, you can still get your money back now. How about it?" I stuffed the receipt into my arms and also whispered to him, "Brother, I advise you to do more good deeds recently and adopt some cats and dogs." After saying that, I left under the young man's confused gaze. Before returning to the homestay, I bought 2 large bags of dog food and snacks. After the spiritual power was resurrected, dogs wouldn't want to eat dog food anymore. Jojo said that only flesh and blood could attract them, otherwise, they might as well not eat. While Jojo could still eat, it should eat more. When I got back, Jojo couldn't wait to pounce on me. After putting its food out, I finally looked at the messages on my phone that seemed about to explode. Since my stepmother left, my phone hadn't been quiet for a moment. My father kept calling me. After I blocked his number, he used other numbers to call me. He had already changed more than a dozen numbers this afternoon. Only after finishing all the things today did I slowly answer his call. "You little bastard. You still dare to answer my call?" "Oh, I don't dare." I hung up the phone expressionlessly. In less than a minute, my father's call came in again like an annoying adhesive plaster. This time, I spoke before him. "If you want me to hang up the phone, keep scolding." He stopped immediately and stammered for a long time. "Spit it out if you have something to say. You actually dared to hit your mother and sister. You're really out of control. Now, quickly bring them back to your house. I'm coming right away, just you wait for me." I sneered and hung up the phone. He came so quickly to avenge his wife and daughter, but unfortunately, he was going to be disappointed. After turning off the phone, I turned on the TV and enjoyed the tranquility before the storm with Jojo. 3. Early the next morning, I went to pick up the RV that I had ordered the day before. I bought some sanitary napkins and tissues and put them in the car. These were the most in-demand things during the end of the world. I went to a large stray dog rescue station. The awakening of spiritual power also had different levels. These stray cats and dogs were the weakest. The spiritual energy they awakened was generally poor. They had no ability to protect themselves and no owners. They hid and dodged around in the city and were finally eaten by fierce beasts. In the rescue station, these little guys were all locked in cages. It was obvious that the management staff here was already overwhelmed, and the cages were in chaos. The manager was an aunt in her 50s. In my previous life, I met her after coming out of the safe house. After I explained my intention, she looked at me warily. I was willing to spend 5 million yuan to take over this rescue station, as long as I became the owner of these dogs. The aunt asked carefully, "Are you really not making any other requests?" Her hair was all white, and her dark yellow face was full of vicissitudes. I knew that like these little guys, she had seen too much of the sinister side of human nature. I smiled and nodded. The aunt, the manager, had never regarded herself as the owner of these animals. She had always been trying to find adopters for them. If she could have been a bit more selfish, she could have survived in her previous life. In her previous life, these dogs desperately protected the aunt. but with a kind motherly heart. After seeing these lives sacrifice themselves for her, she jumped off a tall building. She thought that if she died, these little guys could escape, but she didn't know that dogs were the most loyal. They guarded her body and didn't leave until they died. The aunt issued a certificate for me. With it, I became the owner of these dogs. As if they had a sense of it, many dogs wagged their tails at me. I touched these little guys one by one. In this life, everyone was going to live well. There was still one day left before the end of the world arrived. I tried my best to rescue more lives with the limited money I had, but unexpectedly, the police knocked on my door in the morning. After carefully opening the door, my father was actually standing behind the police. Slap! He suddenly stepped forward and slapped me. This slap was so unexpected that no one reacted in time. Just as he was about to slap me again, he was subdued by the police. Let go of me. I'm going to beat this unfilial daughter to death. I should have strangled you when you were born. My father's curses kept coming out. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. This slap was exerted with all his strength. My face burned with pain, and even my ears were buzzing. I looked at him indifferently. This slap completely shattered the father-daughter relationship between us. The police looked at me somewhat reluctantly. Your father reported that you injured someone. Come back to the police station with us. When my father heard this, he suddenly seemed to want to kill me. I reported that she is a mental patient. She was having an episode, sold the house, and then beat her mother and sister. Officer, I'm her guardian. After he said these words, I completely understood his intention. He was slandering me, saying that I had a mental problem. If I had a mental problem, then all my property would belong to him. I was so angry that I laughed. His calculations were really meticulous, but I wasn't a fool, and the police weren't either. I took Jojo and went to the police station with them. The end of the world was coming tomorrow, and I didn't feel at ease leaving Jojo here waiting for me alone. In the police station, my stepmother and Cora were already waiting there. When my stepmother saw me come in, she couldn't help trembling. Perhaps she was still scared of me from the beating the other day, but when she saw the police, she puffed out her chest, looking just like a dog that relies on its master's power. But Cora's attitude was different. Her eyes stared at me as if poisoned, and the inquiry in her eyes was beyond words. For my stepmother looked at my father as if she had received encouragement. Without saying a word, she started crying. Her crying was so loud that it seemed to shake the whole building. Ask your family member to calm down and state the problem first. The police were annoyed by the noise and said to my father. My stepmother's crying stopped abruptly. The speed at which she could stop and start crying was truly astonishing. She vividly described to the police how I had beaten her, except for some exaggerations. What she said was indeed not wrong. After listening to her and my father's words, the police asked me if I had anything to say. Looking at her lively appearance, I directly said, let's have an injury examination. There was no one who could prove that I had beaten them. The rubber stick couldn't leave even the slightest injury, and the surveillance camera in my building's corridor had been broken for a long time. My stepmother and the others also knew this. As soon as they heard about the injury examination, they immediately refused. Oh, why am I so miserable? I treated her like my own daughter. I raised her for so many years. This time, I just wanted to bring my little daughter to stay at her house for a few days, but she beat us out as soon as we had a disagreement. It's really like feeding my kindness to the dogs. I watched her throwing a tantrum coldly. If this were a vegetable market, this trick might still work, but unfortunately, this wasn't a vegetable market. My father stepped forward and hugged her. His old face was covered with cunningness before I even noticed. It seemed that he had changed since my stepmother married into our family. Officer, her biological mother had mental problems. She has even inherited her mother's crazy behavior. She spends more money on the dog in a month than on me. People like her aren't normal. I'm afraid she'll hurt others again. Can you lock her up in a mental hospital? My father said this righteously, as if he were an extremely just and good person. My mother committed suicide due to depression, but over the years, in his mouth, she was a mental patient. I looked at his face. After locking me up in a mental hospital, what then? You'll enjoy yourself with the money from selling my house. How can you talk like that, child? Dad is doing this for everyone's good. I sneered coldly, completely shattering his illusions. I sold the house for 16 million yuan. When my father heard this, his eyes lit up, looking at his appearance. I changed the subject. but I've already spent it all." His expression turned to one of astonishment, and his embarrassed look made me can't help but laugh, but he quickly reacted, "You can spend over 10 million yuan in a day, don't lie to me." I crossed my arms and said indifferently, "Why not? I suddenly wanted to do some good deeds recently, so I donated all the money." Just as my father was about to refute me, Cora, who had been silent beside us, suddenly raised her head. "Are you reborn too?" As soon as she said this, everyone's eyes turned towards us. Some had looks of confusion, while others were curious, and I was left speechless by this idiot. Fortunately, the end of the world was coming soon, otherwise, the two of us would definitely be caught and sent to a research institute. I gave a cold laugh and said to my father, who was still in the dark, "I think your daughter here is more like a mental patient. How about having her examined?" My father's face darkened immediately, and he stepped forward to tug at Cora. "Stop acting like you're crazy. It's okay to shout at home, but if you keep talking nonsense, I'll slap you." Cora grabbed my father's hand. "Dad, I'm not lying to you. Amelia is really reborn, and the end of the world is coming soon." I could see the pleading in Cora's eyes, but in my father's eyes, Cora had gone crazy. My father was startled and instinctively pulled his arm back. Cora was thrown to the ground by the sudden force. "Dad, please, give me some more money, I'll go and buy some more." Cora's words stopped abruptly, and I, who had been watching the scene, also stopped smiling. I looked at Jojo, who was suddenly twitching. It was exactly the same scene as in my previous life. Jojo was about to gain special abilities. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Cora. After pausing, she quickly opened her backpack. As soon as she opened it, everyone in the police station was startled. The bag was filled with densely packed snakes that were writhing wildly. The end of the world had arrived ahead of schedule. 5. When I saw that pile of snakes, my scalp tingled. In the apocalypse, reptiles had only one function, which was to deal with rats and insects. I remembered that on the second day of the apocalypse, a large number of rats and insects gathered around the city. The rat and insect plagues swept through the city. At that time, people who had reptile pets were treated as honored guests, so this was what Cora had in mind. She wanted to rely on these snakes to survive in the apocalypse, but she was really pitifully stupid. In the apocalypse, the scariest thing was human nature. These little snakes could only deal with rats and couldn't protect her at all. When they need you, you're a treasure, but what about when they don't? Just then, Jojo stopped twitching, and in an instant, countless animal voices flooded into my mind. Jojo whined at me twice, and I exchanged a look with it before we both rushed out. The police station was in chaos, with emergency calls coming in one after another. Those who had abused animals were torn to pieces by the animals as soon as their special abilities awakened. My father and stepmother were already scared out of their wits, while Cora was still in excitement of the snake's mutation. There were few pedestrians on the street, and most of them were hiding in the shops. The first ones to attack were birds. Looking at the crows circling in the sky, I thought something was wrong. Everything was too sudden, and all my preparations were useless. I quickly dialed the number of the ant from the rescue station. Fortunately, the phone rang twice and then was answered. There was a lot of noise on the other end of the phone. The ant's loud voice came through the phone, and it made me feel extremely at ease. I shouted into the phone, "Take all the dogs and the staff to the zoo on Lonely Road, go right now." I shouted several times and didn't hang up until the other side replied affirmatively. Jojo and I also needed to get to the zoo, but before that, I needed to go back and get the RV. Most of the dogs had awakened the ability of strength, and Jojo was no exception. Although it was chaotic outside, Jojo could protect me, and I could connect with all the animals that belonged to me, if I was in danger. I could also call them to help. When I returned to the parking lot under the homestay and was about to get into the car, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. I squinted my eyes. It was Easton, that little celebrity who had gone to the safe house with us in my previous life. It was him who had fascinated Cora. In that safe house, Jojo was the most powerful. Originally, we had the best treatment. But it all changed the moment Easton's sister, Piper, came. When Piper saw Jojo, she was so scared that she let out a scream. In her eyes, Jojo seemed like something dirty. Easton quickly protected his sister. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes showed disgust when he looked at Jojo. I didn't care at first. In this apocalypse, Whether we could survive was already a problem, and who would care if she was afraid of dogs? But I didn't expect that the next day, I was stabbed fiercely in the back by Cora, in order to please Easton. She took the lead in trying to drive Jojo out. Most people didn't agree. After all, Jojo was everyone's life-saving charm, but unexpectedly, Cora's acting skills were too good. She vividly fabricated stories about Jojo biting people and said that Jojo had wanted to bite a child on the way, and I had secretly stopped it. The way everyone looked at me gradually turned cold. Those who had been smiling and thanking Jojo the day before were now mercilessly trying to drive Jojo away. They threw stones at it and cursed it with the most vicious words, as if it had committed the most heinous crimes. I came back to my senses and looked at Easton, who was being chased around by the crows. Whine, Jojo in the RV was urging me, looking at Easton, who was getting closer. I put down the leg that was on the step. Jojo, go. As soon as the words left my mouth, Jojo pounced out without hesitation. Things were getting a lot more interesting. 6. Jojo pounced forward and drove away those crows in a few moves. Easton was so scared that he fled behind me in a panic. I smiled gently at him and said, "It's safe now, get in the car first." Easton quickly climbed into the car, and Jojo and I followed. After he got into the RV, he flopped down on the sofa, his face pale and gasping for breath. I handed him a bottle of water, and then he came to his senses and looked at me. Thank you. I pursed my lips and smiled. Such a cowardly man could also fascinate Cora. I didn't show the slightest impatience. I changed my plan and took the initiative to offer to take him to the safe house with us. Easton immediately agreed, unexpectedly. On the way, we met Piper. Piper was holding a cat in her arms, looking. Maybe it was because Jojo had saved her in this life, so she wasn't as resistant to Jojo. Rescuing her on the way delayed us for some time. By the time we reached the safe house, it was already evening. The safe house was almost full, and the people inside didn't want to let us in at first, but my dear sister's love-struck mind took over the moment she saw Easton. She overruled the objections and let us in. I had been following behind, wearing a hat, and she didn't notice me. It was only when the door of the safe house closed again that I raised my head. "Mom, Dad, sister, hello." Cora's face changed, and she reached out to push me out. Jojo leaped in front of me and blocked her, growling menacingly at her. "Amelia, do you know each other?" Piper grabbed my arm and looked at Cora with some disgust. Seeing Piper's reaction, Cora immediately tried to please her. "Hello, I'm Cora, the strongest person here." Cora's words didn't make Piper think highly of her. Instead, Piper gave a cold snort. I smiled and patted her hand, and then said to my father and stepmother behind Cora, "Mom, Dad, Jojo has awakened the ability of strength. It's really powerful now. It can protect all of us here on its own. Whether you can be safe depends on Jojo." My father and stepmother's eyes flickered. They knew that I wasn't showing off Jojo. I was threatening them. My father let out a cold snort and sat down, not looking at me. Cora also didn't pester me when she saw this situation. She was afraid that Easton would have a bad impression of her. I led Easton and his sister to the corner. As we walked, Piper couldn't help but say, "Amelia, the snakes on her look so disgusting. Is she really your sister?" Before I could answer, Easton scolded her in a low voice. "How do you talk? But Amelia's sister is indeed a bit different." I smiled and said, "Half-siblings, no wonder. Not everyone is as nice as Amelia." Piper leaned against me and acted coquettishly, as if we had a very good relationship. And Cora was so angry that her facial features were almost twisted together. More and more rats kept crawling in through the sewers and air vents in the safe house, but as soon as they came in, they were swallowed by Cora's snakes. Every time this happened, Cora would give me a cold snort and then sarcastically say, "Some people's dogs look intimidating, but they're actually useless." I remained silent. I didn't want to make Jojo eat rats just to get into an argument with her. Although I didn't say anything, Piper would defend me. She praised Jojo for saving them while saying that these little snakes were disgusting. After all, she was a young girl in love. In the end, Cora didn't care about Easton's opinion anymore and actually started arguing with Piper. The two of them went back and forth. Finally, Easton pulled Piper back to stop it. "Amelia, you're from the same father, but how can you be so different? I don't know what people who keep those cold-blooded animals are thinking, in my opinion. People like that are definitely not normal. Can we drive her out?" I'm the one who let you in. How can you be so ungrateful? Piper's fighting power was much stronger than Cora's. She spat at Cora and said, "Who do you think you are? Do you really think everyone will respect you just because you have a few useless snakes? We were let in because everyone is kind. What does it have to do with you?" The other people in the safe house were watching the scene and no one tried to stop them. Even in the apocalypse, people's love for gossip couldn't be resisted. 7. After all, Cora was just a young girl. Seeing that the person she liked and his sister treated her like this, she actually sat on the ground and burst into tears. My stepmother comforted her beside her. That's when I stood up and walked in front of Cora. There was so much hatred in her eyes when she looked at me. I understood why she hated me. She hated that although we were both reborn, I had met Easton and his sister before her. She hated that I was completely different from my previous self. I squatted in front of her and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "If you dare to reveal the fact that we were reborn, I'll kill you." After saying that, I touched her head and pretended to care, saying, "Cora, Piper is still a child, don't be angry with her." Her eyes lit up instantly. She grabbed my collar. "So you are reborn, you bitch, you want to scheme against me." Her snakes hissed at me, all waiting for an opportunity to attack around me. I was pulled down to my knees, looking at Cora's crazy appearance. "This bitch and her dog were driven out by you in the last life. She just admitted that she was reborn. Amelia, you're such a slut. Piper hurt you in the last life, and now you actually saved her." I pursed my lips and didn't say anything. Look, she doesn't even refute. Who knows what evil intentions this vicious woman has? Let's throw her out. Cora might have been too excited. Her words didn't make sense, and she really seemed to be going crazy. There was a moment of silence around us, and there was no echo as Cora had imagined. Everyone looked at her like she was a lunatic. She was at a loss and looked at my father. "Dad, say something. Aren't you the one who hates her the most?" My father gave her a fierce glare and grabbed my stepmother, who was even more at a loss. "Take care of your daughter." My stepmother's tears immediately fell. It was obvious that she really loved Cora. She hugged her and started crying. "Cora, what's wrong with you? Don't scare Mom." Cora's hand holding my collar loosened, and I took the opportunity to step back. She stared at me with wide eyes, full of confusion. She couldn't understand why no one believed her. Looking at the mother and daughter crying in each other's arms, Piper came up to me. She said in a voice that everyone could hear, "I think she's gone crazy. It's too dangerous for a crazy person to control so many snakes. How about we?" Piper didn't finish her sentence. She was used to using others to do her dirty work. I didn't respond and leaned against the wall to observe everyone's expressions. The people around us said the words for her. "Drive her out. It's too dangerous." I looked at the woman who spoke. She was probably in her 30s and was with a little boy. In my previous life, when Cora slandered Jojo for biting people, she was also the first one to come out and want to drive Jojo away. Her son not only threw stones at Jojo but also urinated on it. Jojo really liked children. It didn't know what it had done wrong to be treated like that. I patted Jojo's fluffy head and watched the coldness of human nature with a cold gaze. Cora looked up at her in disbelief when she heard this. "Nova, how could you say such a thing?" The woman protected her child behind her and avoided Cora's gaze. "Nova is right. You're a danger to everyone in the safe house. Get out." Piper quickly chimed in, and Easton also stood beside her and agreed. The others didn't say anything, but their eyes looking at Cora were also very unfriendly. The situation was at a standstill for a moment. That's when I spoke up. "My sister has always been not normal. Before, she put snakes in her classmates' school bag. She also always fantasizes about things that didn't happen." At this point, I looked at Cora. "Cora, make sure your snakes don't hurt anyone." Cora's expression changed, and she pounced towards me. She wanted to kill me immediately. Jojo reacted quickly and blocked in front of me, but before she could get close, a harsh sound suddenly rang out. When Cora heard this sound, she covered her ears in pain and fell to the ground. The pile of little snakes beside her also twisted. 8. I turned to look at the Maine Coon cat in Piper's arms that was making the sound. This cat had been hiding in her arms. When they first entered the safe house, someone asked what special ability her cat had awakened. Just like in my previous life, she made an excuse that the cat was not in good health and hadn't awakened any special ability. I raised my eyebrows. There were very few animals that could awaken the ability of sound waves. After the sound wave ended, the way people around looked at Piper had already shown a hint of awe. Cora was attacked by the sound wave, and beads of sweat covered her forehead. She was lying on the ground, looking pale. The pile of snakes didn't move at all, and it was unknown whether they were alive or dead. My stepmother protected Cora and looked at Piper in fear, and my father stepped back a bit. His indifferent look was as if it wasn't his daughter who was suffering. Indeed, in my previous life, he had the same attitude when I was driven out, even if it was his beloved daughter. So what? In his heart, only he himself was the most important. After Piper showed her super strength, it was a foregone conclusion that Cora would be driven out of the safe house. I watched her experience the same thing as I did in my previous life. Those who had received her kindness pushed her out without mercy. Even to show their stance, they were more ruthless in hitting a person when they were down than I was. My stepmother no longer held any hope for my father. After scolding him, she helped Cora and walked out together. Looking at Cora, who was suffering from the sound wave and couldn't speak, the grudges from my previous life were finally settled. Leaving the safe house now meant only death. Jojo couldn't even protect me back then, let alone those useless snakes. After driving Cora away, the others all gathered around Piper, and I was pushed into the corner. Nova, who was with the child, was the most forward. She pulled Piper and called her good sister affectionately. This good sister, she had called Cora, me, and now Piper. As long as one was strong enough, anyone could be her good sister. I stopped talking and spent the first night of the apocalypse hugging Jojo. Early the next morning, we heard news about the army outside. A large number of insects and rats swept through the city. The army told everyone to stay in the safe house and not go out. There would be no supplies in a short time. The resources in the safe house were limited. Hearing this news, everyone's hearts sank. After the broadcast notice ended, there was a deathly silence in the safe house. People kept secretly looking at Piper, or more precisely, the cat in her arms. Everyone had seen how powerful this cat was, and they were truly afraid from the bottom of their hearts. Piper pursed her lips and smiled. Although the supplies in our safe house are monotonous, they should be able to last until new supplies arrive. Just as everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief, Piper pulled the corners of her mouth and seemed helpless. But no one can be sure if the army will still send supplies. What if there are no new supplies all the time? Easton picked up the conversation beside her. Sister, since the supplies are limited, we should distribute them well first. We can't give them all to everyone. Well, then I'll distribute them to everyone. Does anyone have any objections? No one dared to have any objections. The two of them, brother and sister, sang in unison and decided on the matter of supplies. They took out all the supplies in front of everyone. There were still 18 people in the safe house, but Piper only took out 7 packs of compressed biscuits and milk. She distributed these biscuits to the young men in the safe house and me. When the others were waiting to be given biscuits, Piper put away all the supplies. Nova asked first, "Good sister, why are you putting them away? You haven't given them to us yet." Piper didn't stop putting away the supplies. "Nova, you know that the supplies are limited. We must give them to useful people first, but I'm not completely not giving them to you. As long as everyone blocks all the air vents and sewers and gets through 24 hours safely, they can get a bag of compressed biscuits." She wanted to be the ruler in the safe house, the one who made the rules. 9. Nova's face changed. She didn't care about herself, but the child needed to eat. She asked carefully, "Sister, Finn is still a child. We will definitely be able to guard well. Can you give Finn a pack first?" But what she got was Piper's negative answer. The people who didn't get the supplies looked at each other. The fierce light in their eyes was obvious, but just as they were about to step forward, a harsh scream sounded. Piper was merciless. She didn't even spare the child named Finn. Under the sound wave attack, they all covered their ears and fell down. My father was among them. He probably didn't expect that he would experience the pain that Cora had so quickly. Piper simply stopped pretending. As long as there was an opposing voice, she would let her cat deal with everyone. After being attacked by the sound wave twice, everyone no longer dared to resist. I took out a piece of compressed biscuit and gave it to my father. He gobbled it up and looked at the remaining biscuits in my hand with green eyes. "Amelia, give Dad another bite." I shook my head. "Dad, I'm hungry too." He was like a stray dog begging for food. But a stray dog knew how to be grateful and wouldn't hold a grudge against me if I didn't give it food. My father seemed to have finally found an outlet to vent his anger. He cursed at me with the most unpleasant words in his life, and in the midst of his curses, I ate the biscuit bite by bite. 3 days passed and there was still no news of the army sending supplies. Everyone's nerves were on edge. At first, everyone secretly hated Piper in their hearts. Later, some people put aside their dignity and tried to please her. Piper was not stingy. Whoever could please her could get a bag of biscuits. Gradually, everyone went to please her. She enjoyed it and had the final say in the safe house. But early this morning, her finger pointed at me, who had never tried to please her. In these few days, Jojo and I had guarded a sewer, sharing a lot of the pressure for everyone. Except for my father, everyone else was very grateful to me. Piper stood up, holding Finn's head, and looked at me arrogantly. Amelia, come and rub my legs. I raised my eyebrows and didn't move. As soon as Piper slightly frowned, Nova quickly stepped forward and pointed at me. Are you deaf? Hurry up and come over to rub Piper's legs. She played the role of a sycophant to the fullest. Seeing that I still didn't move, Piper raised her hand, and the harsh scream sounded again. There were too many animals bound to me. And there were also many types of awakened abilities. As long as they were within a certain distance, they could use their abilities to protect me. This cat's meow didn't affect me at all, but I still pretended to cover my ears in pain. After the scream ended, Piper walked in front of me and smiled cunningly. Amelia, can you rub my legs for me now? I looked up at her and Easton. The scariest thing in this world was human nature. They completely forgot that I had saved their lives. I said word by word, I saved you. Piper smiled disdainfully. Her look seemed to be mocking my naivete. Sister, don't you understand the principle of the strong being respected? If it weren't for the fact that you saved us, do you think you could still be alive now? As if she had thought of something, she suddenly became interested. Your sister left. Why don't you go find her too? I opened my eyes wide and looked around, hoping that someone could say something for me. But there was only silence. I stretched out my hand to my father, trembling. Dad, save me. My father looked at me with disgust, as if I were something dirty, exactly the same look as he had given Cora that day. I looked at the others who had received my kindness. Some turned their heads away, while others cursed at me to please Piper. Seeing that I still had the strength, Piper made her cat meow again. The harsh sound got louder and louder. I asked Jojo to pretend to lie on the ground with me. 10. Jojo and I were carried to the door of the safe house by everyone. They wanted to throw us out, but I had lived in the safe house for so many days and didn't want to be thrown out in the end. When I returned to the safe house, I wanted to kill them all, but I'm not a saint, nor can I kill casually. The sins they committed in their previous lives were not enough for them to die. Adding this life, it was enough. The moment the safe house door opened, I turned over and stood up. Jojo, who had been pretending to be unconscious, also got up. At the same time, there were bursts of wild animal roars outside the door. The cat in Piper's arms immediately fluffed up its fur and hid in her arms. She looked at all this in astonishment. What did you do? I didn't say anything and looked outside. A claw with black and white stripes stepped in first. Jojo and I silently took a step back. That claw was as big as Jojo's head. Immediately after, the head of the creature outside the door also poked in. Its dark eyes scanned around and locked on me. Under everyone's shocked gaze, this huge white tiger bent down and rubbed its ear against my hand. Plop dash. Piper's legs went weak and she actually knelt down directly. Amelia, I was wrong. Please spare me. After saying that, she kept kowtowing to me, completely different from the powerful look she had just now. The speed of her kneeling down was so fast that it made me a little stunned. The others also reacted at this time and all knelt on the ground begging for mercy. My father tried his best to get close to me. His old face was full of flattery. Amelia, Dad is here. Finally, I took a look at these people and smiled, waving my hand. Dad, go to hell. The end. Extra story. 3 years after the end of the world arrived, my wild zoo became the most solid safe house. The small animals reproduced rapidly, and the volunteers living here adopted them. I didn't open it to the public. I only accepted some people who had been volunteers before. Even the later, organized army couldn't do anything to us. We had a large number of animals with barrier type abilities. Can you make this beast of yours stop barking? I can't even read my book. Listen, everyone was full of love. They wouldn't hurt any animals. It was just pitiful for those hens. After we couldn't eat meat, our only source of meaty food was to take their eggs. The mother hens were so forced that they pecked at anyone they saw, including me. Today, the sun was shining brightly, everyone was playing ball in the tiger area, the sunlight spilled down, making it warm and cozy. I leaned on Jojo, enjoying the sun and still being their referee, ant manager. Little White is cheating again, roar Dash. The white tiger was angry when it was caught cheating and directly used its stinky mouth to blow at me. I changed my direction to avoid the stench. 10 points deducted. Whine, hearing its aggrieved cry, ant manager, and I laughed heartily. Such a life was really beautiful. Story 2. My husband is as indifferent as a chrysanthemum. When the apocalypse arrived, I lived frugally, but my husband distributed the supplies to the neighbors, saying, even in the apocalypse, we should live with dignity. When our ammunition and food were all used up and the water level rose above the 6th floor, our family sent someone out to look for supplies. My husband decisively pushed me out, saying, Eleanor is good at swimming, so let Eleanor swim. When the neighbor came to provoke me and I counterattacked and killed him and took back the food, my husband said, Eleanor has a low moral character. I wouldn't use such methods even if someone told me to. I was heartbroken and died without receiving treatment. My husband then got together with Stella, reborn for a new life. I left home directly with the supplies in my arms. You think you're lofty, don't you? You think you're as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, don't you? You want to live with dignity, don't you? Without my help. I hope you can still keep it up. 1. It rained in J City for a full 3 days, bringing a bit of coolness to the sweltering heat. No one knew that this was a warning of the apocalypse. In the living room, Carter and Stella were chatting about something and laughing extremely happily. I rubbed my red eyes. Last night, my mother-in-law said there were mosquitoes in her room and she couldn't sleep, so she made me kneel on the ground and fan her for the whole night. I once complained to Carter about this, but Carter comforted me, saying, Mom's personality is like this. She likes to make things difficult for you. But she definitely won't let you get too seriously injured or die. Just bear with it for now. I'll talk to Mom properly later. However, until I was so angry that I died in my previous life, Carter never said a word in my defense. Instead, in front of my corpse with eyes wide open in death, he affectionately took Stella's hand. Eleanor is frivolous and vulgar. I'm already tired of being her husband. You are the wife I like the most. Only then did I know that it wasn't that Carter didn't understand love, but that he had never loved me. Just like today, Carter didn't notice my bloodshot eyes, but he showed concern for Stella's slight dark circles under the eyes. 2. My sister-in-law Naomi pushed open the bedroom door with a cold face and said, Why haven't you cooked yet? Don't you know that there are guests coming today, right? The meal. Naomi's words reminded me, the apocalypse will come soon. At that time, the light rain will turn into heavy rain, falling from morning till night, from dusk till dawn, without stopping. At its highest, the water level rose to the 10th floor. The government was also unable to take care of itself. The tragic scenes of people killing and eating each other were everywhere. I broke a steamed bun into 2 halves and only dared to take 1 bite a day, but my husband generously distributed the supplies to the neighbors. Even in the apocalypse, we should live with dignity. Later, I found out that it wasn't that he felt sorry for the neighbors, but that he felt sorry for Stella downstairs. In order not to let me see his true intentions, he distributed food to every household, but the majority of the supplies were still given to Stella. Because of this, our family was eyed by the neighbors, and they came to rob us with knives. I rushed out with a kitchen knife, not caring about my life, and fought them for 3 days and 3 nights before I took back the food. During the fight, Carter's family huddled together and watched through the peephole, and they didn't even open the door for me. They only let me in until they were sure that the others were all dead. When I was in a coma, I couldn't forget Carter's superior expression. Eleanor has a low moral character. I wouldn't use such methods even if someone told me to. Fine, fine, fine. You think you're lofty. You think you're amazing. Let whoever wants to serve you serve you. I'm not going to do it anymore. My sister-in-law was frightened by the madness in my eyes. She slammed the door shut with a bang and went to tattle on me. Mom, look at my sister-in-law. I just told her to buy groceries, and she gave me a fierce glare. This bitch, she's tired of living. When my mother-in-law Aurora rushed over aggressively, I had just picked up the knife in my hand. 3. Eleanor, are you going to rebel? Seeing the way I was staring blankly, Aurora was taken aback. Mom, what are you talking about? The Qing dynasty has been gone for a long time. What kind of rebellion would I be staging? Didn't you ask me to cook? I was just about to cut the meat. Hearing my answer, Aurora nodded in satisfaction. Be quick with your hands. Don't make my son wait too long. I sneered. Don't worry, it won't be long. All these people, without exception, are the murderers who killed me in my previous life. In this life, I won't let them have an easy time. I hummed a little tune and happily started chopping the beef, making a thumping sound with each cut, for, after stewing the beef, I happily picked up the vegetable basket. Husband, you and Miss Stella sit here, I'm going out to buy groceries. Carter nodded indifferently. When he saw me approaching, a trace of disdain quickly flashed in his eyes. I know that he looks down on me for singing kunku opera and indirectly calls me lowly, but he's not that noble either. Don't think I don't know that the so-called looking at each other from the wall and the horse, I'm heartbroken at the first sight of you, that he and Stella talk about every day is actually just a story about a man and a woman eloping. What's the deal? Is it vulgar for me to sing kunku opera, and noble for you to read about elopement? I curled the corner of my mouth disdainfully. You think you're lofty, don't you? You think you're as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, don't you? You want to live with dignity, don't you? When the apocalypse comes, let's see if you can still maintain your grace. I walked out of the community happily and quickly called the real estate agent Benjamin. Benjamin, you said the other day that there is a renovated house for sale on the 18th floor opposite, right? I'll take it. What? You ask why I want to buy it when I already have a house. I sighed faintly. Alas, it's all because of my husband's unlucky relatives. They want to come to J City and stay with us. Our house is too small to accommodate so many people, so I have to buy another one. What I said wasn't entirely wrong. Now that Carter is successful, a large group of relatives from his hometown can't sit still. They come to our house empty-handed every now and then, asking us to entertain them, and they stay for 10 days or half a month at a time. There's a sneaking tendency to make this place their home. My mother-in-law values face, so she has never said no to them. Instead, she asks me to treat them well and tell them to come often. I euphemistically mentioned to Carter whether these relatives could come less often. After all, I had to go to work, entertain them, clean up the mess afterward, and take care of my mother-in-law. I was really exhausted, but Carter stared at me and said, I've seen what you've been doing every day. What difficulties do you have? Once, I really thought I hadn't done a good enough job. Now that I think about it, I almost let this scumbag PUA me. These bodhisattvas and Buddhas who have never touched the spring water with their fingers should also come down to earth and see the hustle and bustle of the world. 5. Because I promised to pay on the spot, Benjamin didn't dare to keep me waiting. He rode his electric scooter and rushed over in a flash. In less than half an hour, we went upstairs, looked at the house, and he handed over the keys, all in one go. Eleanor is indeed Eleanor. You're so generous. Seeing a large amount of money in his account, Benjamin was overjoyed. His hand was shaking as he handed over the keys, and he happily called me Eleanor again and again. Don't be too happy too soon. There is a small warehouse on the rooftop. I see that no one usually uses it, and I want to put some sundries in it. I'll do a little renovation later, in the rainy and stormy weather. The storage room in the underground garage definitely can't be used. I must find a high place to store the supplies. Although the warehouse on the rooftop is small, it's still about 20 or 30 square meters. If I fill it up, it will be enough for me to eat for a while. Hearing this, Benjamin patted his chest and assured me, don't worry, no problem, not to mention the rooftop. The room 1802 opposite you also belongs to the landlord. It's a rough house, you can put your things there, anyway. No one lives there. 1802, I quickly calculated in my mind. That room is about more than 100 square meters, which is enough for me to stockpile supplies for more than 10 years. After finalizing the contract, I gave Benjamin a red envelope of 1,000 yuan. Don't tell your brother-in-law about this. I want to give him a surprise. Okay, got it. After dealing with the house, I put all the things in the vegetable basket into the refrigerator of the new home. There were things like pork, beef, white sugar, chicken essence, iodized salt. They were all brought from my hometown. Carter and the others thought that I had been busy in the kitchen for a long time cooking, but actually, I just didn't want to leave them a single bite, just like they did to me before, and the so-called beef stewed in the pot was just a dirty rag. After happily finishing all this, I also contacted the largest construction team in the city and asked them to reinforce the doors and windows and replace them all with explosion-proof ones. Not only that, in order to prevent someone from sneaking upstairs in the apocalypse, I also added an iron door at the entrance of the corridor. The workers were busy with the renovation, and I didn't slack off either. In the apocalypse, food is the most in short supply. The continuous heavy rain flooded the land, and the crops simply couldn't survive. I drove a Wuling Hongguang to the supermarket and started a vigorous shopping spree: white rice, flour, cooking oil, potato chips, hamburgers, instant noodles, sunflower seeds, peanuts, chocolate, buy, put them all in my pocket, especially white sugar. This thing is an important strategic material. It has a small volume, is easy to carry, is quickly absorbed, and has high energy. It can not only be used for food preservation, but also for stopping bleeding and removing bacteria. It's really great. More importantly, with a little adjustment, this thing has amazing power. Don't people often say on Jihu, 1 sulfur, 2 nitrates, 3 charcoals, add some white sugar and it's like a big Ivan, a powerful explosive. In the apocalypse, people's hearts are the most unpredictable things. I can't be too prepared. When checking out, the supermarket clerk was stunned. Sister, why are you buying so many things? There's no promotion here today. I grinned at her and said, it's nothing, it's for the company's team building activity. I'm in charge of the procurement. The leader asked me to make sure everyone eats and drinks well. Wow, your leader is so nice. Of course, how could he not be nice? The so-called leader is myself. After stockpiling food, medicine is also essential. After all, after the flood comes the plague. I went to a nearby pharmacy and bought things like ibuprofen, ganmaling, a cold medicine, banlangen, a traditional Chinese medicine for colds, antivirus masks, isolation gowns. I bought another large batch, and generators, water purifiers, and kayaks are all essential. I just pulled a cart full of supplies back home and hadn't even taken a rest when I received a call from Carter. What are you doing? Why haven't you come back yet? The guests have been waiting for a long time. Even through the screen, I could feel Carter's contemptuous gaze, as if he was saying that this was the only use I had. I smiled and placed an order for a water purification device. Carter, don't you really think of me as your family's nanny? On the other end of the phone, Carter sounded confused. You all have hands and feet, but you're all sitting on the sofa, ordering me around. Now, I'm not going to serve you anymore. You can eat or not, it's up to you. How can you say that? As a wife, you should contribute to the family. Carter stared at me. Besides, a gentleman stays away from the kitchen. As a man, I shouldn't touch these dirty things at all. Right, you're absolutely right. I knew that Carter was about to bring up his theory of dignity again. Once, when Carter was eating at a restaurant outside, he was cheated and ate poisonous food. He vomited terribly. I took care of him attentively and argued with the merchant at the same time. But he scolded me severely, saying that the way I was shouting in the street was like a shrew and it damaged his dignity. When he was excluded by his colleagues and had to stay up late to make a PPT, I spoke up for him. He said he knew what to do, but in the end, I did his work for a whole night. It was like this every time. For the so-called dignity, he was willing to give up everything around him. But I'm sorry, I'm no longer your wife. We're getting a divorce. As for who you want to marry, whether it's Stella or any other woman, I have no objections. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard Carter on the other end as if his thoughts had been hit. Eleanor, what are you going crazy for? I've explained to you so many times, Stella and I are innocent. Is your so-called innocence that she comes to our house 3 times a day, bringing you pillows and insoles? Or is it that you two, a man and a woman, sit at the stairway looking at the stars and the moon? The innocent will remain innocent. Justice lies in people's hearts. Seeing that he couldn't argue with me, Carter brought up his theory of being as indifferent as a chrysanthemum again. If you slander me like this, I don't know what to say. I'm tired of saying the word innocent. I don't know if you believe it or not, but there is a kind of relationship that goes beyond the relationship between a man and a woman. Stella understands me, but you don't, if you insist on slandering me. I can't defend myself. With a snap, I quickly hung up the phone and rubbed my body. If I listened any further, I would get goosebumps. 6. There is still one day left until the apocalypse. The explosion-proof doors and windows have all been installed, taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention at night. I moved the supplies little by little to the rooftop warehouse and the adjacent room until the rooms were filled to the brim. However, having only supplies is far from enough. The experience of the great beautiful country tells me, when my neighbors stockpile food, I stockpile guns, and my neighbors will be my granary, so, I also need to get some self-defense items, guns, no, not to mention in this peaceful era, even in the apocalypse, only a few people have guns, then I can only start with cold weapons. Thinking of this, I bought a boning knife, a spiked club, a military shovel, an axe for splitting the sky, and of course, a compound bow for long-range shooting from the vegetable market. To be on the safe side, I also ran to several places and all the fireworks and firecrackers in J City, all kinds of firecrackers like the double kick and the Gatling type ones, all of them came into my possession. The shop owner was almost laughing his head off as he counted the money. Sister, it's still early before the spring festival. Why are you buying so many fireworks? It's for the opening ceremony. The boss said he just wants to hear the sound. I made up an excuse casually, and the shop owner didn't suspect anything. He loaded the things into my car. On the street, the heavy rain gradually started to get heavier. I drove back to the underground garage in a hurry, and finally carried the supplies back before the apocalypse of the heavy rain arrived. As soon as I got home, I was so tired that I lay down on the sofa and didn't even want to move my fingers. I've been on edge these days and didn't dare to rest at all. It seems that as soon as I close my eyes, I will go back to the moment of my death in my previous life, because I had no more use value. My mother-in-law didn't even give me a sip of water. My sister-in-law cut the meat on my body with a knife, and Carter and Stella affectionately held hands. Sister Eleanor, I didn't mean to compete with you for Brother Carter, but you're too vulgar and really don't deserve him. I really can't bear to see him with you, a tigress, so, I'm sorry. Carter was even more straightforward. Eleanor, Stella and I are truly in love. Although you are about to die now, I still hope that you can bless us from heaven. Bless you, bless your head. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you off. 7. I don't know how long I had been in a daze. I was awakened by the notification sound on my phone. It showed, beep, your weight is 50 kilograms. Wait, I thought about it and quickly understood. My phone is connected to the electronic scale at home. As long as someone stands on it to weigh themselves, there will be a notification on the phone. My mother-in-law weighs 65 kilograms and my sister-in-law weighs 60 kilograms. It definitely wasn't them who used it. The only target that fits is Stella, who comes to my house every day. Thinking of this, I immediately made a phone call. Congratulations, Carter, you said you were innocent with her yesterday, but you're already together today. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. On the other end of the phone, Carter suppressed his anger. Eleanor, what are you talking nonsense about? There's nothing between me and Stella. We are innocent. Oh, really? Then who used my electronic scale? If I remember correctly, that scale should be in the bedroom, right? I checked the time. It was 5 in the morning. I don't believe that any decent woman would run into a man's bedroom at 5 in the morning just to weigh herself. Sure enough, things turned out as I thought. Stella's voice came from the other end of the phone. Sister Eleanor, I'm so sorry. It was thundering and raining outside last night, and I was really scared being home alone. Brother Carter was also concerned about me and specially invited me to stay over. I just got up and noticed that my stomach seemed a bit bigger. Since there was a weighing scale in the room, I accidentally used it. Please don't be angry. I snorted disdainfully. What a perfect pair of a scumbag and a slut. They can even make an affair sound so fresh and refined. So, you two were alone in the same room last night, right? Is the bed I chose comfortable for you? Miss Stella, Eleanor, stop being unreasonable. Carter lost his temper with me on the other end of the phone. What do you mean by being alone? Mom and my sister were also at home. If you don't believe me, ask them. Besides, the place at home is just so big. When Stella came, there was no place for her to sleep. We couldn't let the guests sleep on the floor, could we? Anyway, you weren't here. What's the harm in letting Stella sleep in such a big bed? Stella and I are like siblings, and we wouldn't do such a dirty thing. Seeing that Carter was about to bring up that theory of, the innocent will always be vindicated, I quickly interrupted him. Right. Although you two got into the bed and slept for a whole night, you didn't take off your clothes and didn't do anything. Anyway, I wasn't here. It's okay to let her use the bed in the bedroom. Anyway, I wasn't here. It's okay to let her have some fun with my husband, right, Eleanor? On the other end of the phone, there came Stella's aggrieved crying and Carter's furious outburst. As a woman, how can you be so heartless? You don't understand a bit of how hard it is for her to be alone. So you know about empathy. I couldn't help but argue with Carter. When I married into your family without asking for a single penny of betrothal gift and your mother called me despicable, where was your empathy? When you had a stomachache and I took you to the hospital in the heavy rain late at night, where was your empathy? When all of you were so aloof, not doing any housework at all, and my hands were frozen stiff from washing your clothes, where was your empathy? Now, I'm just saying what she did, and you say I have no empathy. What? Just because I don't cry or make a scene, I'm not a woman and don't need to be cared for. Carter held back for a long time and finally only managed to say, you're being unreasonable. Suddenly, I heard an exclamation from the other end of the phone. Look, the water has flooded to the first floor. I opened the curtain. The dim sky seemed to have a huge hole, and the torrential rain was pouring down without hesitation. On the ground, the rainwater raged and overflowed the roof of the first floor. Scattered corpses were floating on the water, drifting with the waves. The end of the world had arrived. At first, everyone thought it was just an accident and that they would get through it in a few days. But they didn't know that in the next few months, the flood, like a fierce beast, would only become more and more rampant. First, it engulfed the first floor, and then the second floor, the third floor. Although the government had the intention to help, humans were too insignificant in the face of nature. No ship could withstand the pounding of the rough seas, and there was no more land that could accommodate more than 1 billion people in the country. Now, everyone was struggling to save themselves, perhaps because I hadn't made a sound for a long time. My mother-in-law's gloating voice came from the other end of the phone. Eleanor, are you scared silly? I'm telling you, a woman from the countryside like you should consider yourself lucky to have married my such an excellent urban son. Don't be ungrateful. Stella is a high-quality talent who graduated from a prestigious university. Moreover, she is a Manchu princess. And she and my son are a perfect match. If you're sensible, you should know to shut up. Besides, you haven't given me a grandson in all these years. It's only right that my son divorces you. Listening to my mother-in-law's scolding, I smiled. The Qing dynasty has been gone for hundreds of years. Why are there still so many people acting like its loyal followers? Among those who have survived until now, whose ancestors haven't been prosperous. So what if she's a Manchu princess? I'm also a descendant of the prince of the ancient Anxi kingdom in the Han dynasty. As for the child, when we got married, you were eavesdropping outside the door. You were so eager to cuddle with your precious son all day long that you didn't leave any space for our couple. How could I have a child? Do you think children are born out of thin air? After a round of scolding, I hung up the phone contentedly and turned on the surveillance. Before, I had noticed that the cosmetics I put in the bedroom were used up very quickly and disappeared within 2 or 3 days. Once or twice would be okay, but so many times would make anyone suspicious, so I specially bought a surveillance camera, and unexpectedly, it came in handy this time. On the screen, Carter's family members were gathered together, looking at each other in dismay. This Eleanor is getting bolder and bolder. She actually dared to hang up the phone before me. She has no respect at all. I hope she never comes back and starves to death outside. My mother-in-law kept scolding, while Carter was comforting Stella, who was pretending to be aggrieved beside him. Mom, go and cook quickly, otherwise, before that bitch Eleanor starves to death, I'll starve to death first. My sister-in-law looked impatient. All you think about is eating. Are you reincarnated from a starving ghost? My mother-in-law walked towards the kitchen in dissatisfaction. Before, with me busying around, they just had to stretch out their hands for clothes and open their mouths for food. But now, Aurora rummaged around in the kitchen and finally let out a roar. Where's the food? On this side of the surveillance, I couldn't stop laughing. All the food that could be taken away had been packed and taken away by me, and for the rest that couldn't be taken away, I secretly tampered with it. For example, for the large amounts of rice and flour, I poured a whole basin of dishwater into them. In this way, the food that could originally last for a month in the previous life might now only last for half a month. Of course, I wasn't idle either. While the end of the world had just begun and everyone's mentality hadn't started to go crazy yet, I quickly treated myself. I arranged all kinds of delicious food like braised chicken in yellow sauce, Buddha jumps over the wall, and spicy crayfish. After finishing, I specially took a photo and sent it to the group chat. Sure enough, Carter's family was in an uproar again. Carter, extravagant and wasteful. Aurora, so it was you who took the food from home, give it back to me immediately. Stella, crayfish are precious, greedily eating too much will actually make them lose their original flavor. Naomi, sister-in-law, where are you? Can you finish all this food by yourself? Do you want me to come and help you? Looking at the endless stream of messages in the group chat, I happily took another bite of rice. In the surveillance, Aurora searched all the rooms but couldn't find any other food to eat. It's not my fault. They always said that snacks were unhealthy and wouldn't let me buy them, so there's no food stock at home now. Aurora had no choice but to ask the neighbors for some supplies. Fortunately, it was just the beginning of the end of the world, and everyone still had food in stock and was willing to lend a hand. After borrowing from the whole building, Aurora actually managed to get enough supplies to last for a month. 9. See, now we are also a family with food supplies. Your little bit of crayfish is nothing in our eyes. Showing off, Aurora sent me a photo of the food supplies. I saved it immediately. It's just the beginning now, and everyone hasn't realized the importance of supplies yet, but as the heavy rain keeps falling, the supplies will eventually run out. At that time, people started to panic. Does anyone still have supplies? Can you please save us? We've been hungry for 3 days, and there's a pregnant woman in our family. The family in room 605 was desperately asking for help in the group chat. I have money. I can exchange it with you for supplies. I watched this familiar scene with great interest. Here it comes. It's here. In the previous life, the family in room 605 had also called for help in the group chat like this. I knew that their family had bad intentions and I didn't plan to pay attention to them, but Stella spoke up in the group chat, persuading me not to be so selfish. Carter also forced me to accept them. The couple in room 605 were big and burly, and one person's appetite was equivalent to that of 3 people, especially the husband, relying on his wife being pregnant. He made excessive demands and asked me to do this and that. Seeing that my family was almost eaten up by them, I had to be cruel and coax them out of the house. Then, I was hated by these 2 people, and they led a group of bandits to rob me. This time, the situation was reversed. Stella had already taken my place and moved into our house in advance. I wondered if they would still be as kind as they were in the previous life. I waited and waited, but I never received a reply from Stella. The group chat was completely silent, and no one said anything. I imitated Stella's tone from the previous life and typed quickly on the keyboard. Me, oh dear, it's so pitiful. Why don't you kindly take them in at Carter, 1603? We are all neighbors and should help each other. Carter, Eleanor, what are you talking about? We can't even take care of ourselves. How can we take them in? Me, Carter, don't be modest. You are a family with food supplies now. Why can't you help those 2 people who have nothing to eat? As I spoke, I deliberately showed the chat records, which included the picture of Carter's family supplies and Aurora's boastful words. See, now we are also a family with food supplies. Your little bit of crayfish is nothing in our eyes. The group chat immediately boiled over. Room 403, goodness, when room 1603 borrowed food from my family before, they said there was none left in their house, but now you have more than my family. Room 701, yeah, I saved and scrimped and gave you half of my food from my meager rations, but it turns out I'm the fool. Room 1004, in a word, return the food, give my family's food back to me, return the food +1, return the food +2. Seeing that he had incurred public wrath, Carter quickly explained, everyone, please calm down. It's true that my mother borrowed food from all of you. Logically speaking, the borrowed things definitely need to be returned, but coincidentally, our family has no food now. And there's a flood disaster downstairs. so the date for returning the food needs to be postponed. Well, I promise you that the food borrowed before will definitely be repaid later. As soon as Carter finished speaking, he was despised by room 403. Get out, your family is in trouble. But isn't my family in trouble too? This was originally our family's food. It's only right that we get it back. Why don't you give it back? Watching Carter being criticized so much that he didn't dare to say anything. I couldn't stop laughing while holding my phone. 10. The couple in room 605 finally went there. They were convinced that there were supplies hidden there. How could they not be tempted? Please open the door and have mercy on us. The couple on the second floor kept arguing, but Aurora was determined not to open the door. Go somewhere else. We don't have any extra food either. At this moment, Aurora really hated herself. Why did she have to pick a fight with Eleanor and deliberately send that picture to show off? The sound outside soon died down. After an unknown amount of time, there was a loud bang at the door. The door was kicked open, and the people from room 605 led a large group of people rushing in. Bold, what are you doing? Aurora shouted at the top of her voice. Breaking into a private house is illegal. Then call the police and let the police arrest us. In the surveillance. I saw the group from room 605 ransacking the house thoroughly. Aurora and Naomi pleaded for them to leave some food, but they were slapped twice. Carter and Stella didn't resist at all. They just watched as the house was emptied with a sense of dignity. Not only was the food gone, but even the quilts and tissues were swept away. Those damned robbers. They took all my things away. Looking at the empty house, Aurora cried bitterly in a hurry. Naomi lost her temper with Carter and Stella. You two are grown-ups. How could you not know how to resist at all? My mother and I rushed up, but you just stood there and watched. If our family had risked everything to fight them, we could have at least kept something. Now, everything is gone. As she spoke, Naomi seemed to think of something and suddenly her eyes turned red. If sister-in-law were here, she definitely wouldn't have watched our house being emptied like this. I sat in front of the surveillance thoughtfully. Naomi was right. But that was all in the previous life. In this life, I only regret that they didn't empty the house completely. If it were me, I wouldn't even leave them a single bowl or chopstick. Carter said indifferently, wealth is something external to the body. We can't bring it with us when we're born, and we can't take it with us when we die. Why care so much? Stella chimed in on the side. Yeah, we would disdain to use such despicable means as robbing, even if someone told us to. Humph. You're so noble and extraordinary. If you're so great, don't eat in the future. Naomi cursed and got up from the ground, trying hard to search for the remaining supplies in the house. Stella then pulled Carter downstairs quietly. Damn it, the surveillance can't see them anymore. Fortunately, I have a telescope, because the two buildings faced each other. I adjusted my angle and soon saw Carter and Stella. I really didn't expect that there were still quite a lot of supplies in Stella's room. In my last life, she kept crying that she had nothing and desperately begged us to take her in, until I was made into human jerky. She didn't take out her supplies. I didn't expect she had such a trick up her sleeve. Indeed, people are selfish animals. She pretends to be a kind-hearted person in front of others, but eats alone behind their backs. I will never let her live so happily. What a cunning person with multiple hiding places. Everyone, go to the 8th floor quickly. There are a lot of supplies on the 8th floor. In the group chat, I sent out the photos of Stella and Carter. Each of them had a pack of instant noodles in their hands and were eating with great relish. The people from room 605 quickly changed their direction and rushed towards the 8th floor, perhaps realizing that these were their last supplies. Stella and Carter were really anxious this time. They no longer cared about dignity and desperately fought with the people from room 605 for the supplies. Sure enough, you won't feel the pain until the stick hits you. The last bit of supplies was finally snatched away by the people from room 605. 11. The Carter family calmed down and checked their phones. They soon found out that it was me who had been leading the rhythm from the beginning to the end. Eleanor, you bastard. Aurora was so angry that she kept at ing me in the group. Eleanor also has supplies on her. Everyone, go find her quickly. I'm her mother-in-law. And I promise not to hold you accountable, as long as you can leave me a bite to eat. The people from room 605 were quickly tempted. Where is she? Are there a lot of supplies? Aurora, she moved out a few days ago and also ransacked the food at home. She probably anticipated this situation long ago. I don't know her exact address. but judging from the photos in the group, she should live not far away. As she spoke, Aurora released the photo I took of Stella and Carter secretly eating on the 8th floor. Everyone speculated one after another, and soon someone guessed it based on the light and angle. Room 1004, is it room 1801 in the opposite building? I heard that room was bought by someone 2 days ago, and I've seen your daughter-in-law in the community these days. She was driving a Wuling Hongguang and making trips, but I don't know what she was carrying. Come on, I can't wait. I wasn't surprised because I had expected such a day. After all, nothing can really be hidden from everyone. Even if they don't come, the people in the same building are probably also itching to act. However, Aurora was quite clear and logical this time. I guess Stella was giving her advice behind the scenes. I packed up my things and soon noticed that the people from room 605 in the opposite building were calling several households together, as if they were discussing something. That night, I didn't sleep soundly. In the middle of the night, there were rustling sounds outside, followed by a burst of cursing. Damn it, why is there a door in the corridor? You kid won't be lying to us, will you? I walked out of the room fully equipped and immediately saw Carter leading the people from room 605 and others to find this place. There's no mistake, Eleanor must live here. She has a lot of food at home. She even had crayfish a few days ago. Oh, isn't this my so-called dignified husband? Didn't you say that you disdain to use such methods as smashing, looting, and burning even if someone told you to? Why are you leading so many people to block my door now? My words made Carter's face turn red, but soon he calmed down. You don't understand. I'm doing this so that everyone can live safely. It's different from you, a selfish and despicable person. He talks about great righteousness, but all he thinks about is his own interests. If I hadn't lived with Carter for so many years, I would have almost been deceived by him. What being as indifferent as a chrysanthemum and being as noble as a flower on a high mountain are just because someone else is bearing the burden for them. Now that the hard workers are gone, their true features can no longer be hidden. Eleanor, hand over the supplies quickly, otherwise, with so many of us, we don't believe we can't beat you alone. The people from room 605 roared impatiently. I curled the corner of my mouth and sneered. Really? Then let's give it a try. As soon as the words fell, I immediately lit the enhanced Gatling-style firework in my hand and fired it towards the crowd. Damn it, what is this? A gun? Damn it, she has a gun. Everyone immediately panicked. Carter tried to calm everyone down. Look carefully, that's not a gun, it's just a firework. It doesn't have much lethality. Bullshit. It can be held in the hand, moved, fired continuously, and has great firepower. If a person gets hit by it, they'll get burned. You're telling me this is a firework? The people from room 605 didn't believe Carter's nonsense at all. They pushed him aside and ran away on their own. Run, run, you won't be able to run far. I proudly curled the corner of my mouth, knowing that these people had ill intentions. I had already installed powerful firecrackers and chili powder wrapped inside them in the corridor. As long as they were touched by the fireworks of the Gatling-style firework, those firecrackers would be ignited, and the chili powder would also be sprayed out. Sure enough, there were crackling sounds and the sizzling sound of roasting meat from below. Help, help, Carter had poor physical strength and was running last. He was hit by the Gatling-style firework a lot and had serious burns on his body. He was also bombed by a few firecrackers that he passed by and inhaled a lot of chili powder. At this moment, he finally stopped arguing about whether it was a firework or a gun. Want to run? It's not over yet. On the balcony, 100 skyrockets were aimed at the direction of the small boat below and launched simultaneously. I don't know how many were killed or injured. However, the next day, there was a rare silence in the group, and there were no people in the opposite building. Only countless corpses and dead fish were floating on the lake. 12. Damn Eleanor, Carter is your own husband. How could you do such a thing? In the family group, Aurora took a photo of Carter's severely burned body. His originally handsome face was now charred. He looked like a piece of black charcoal. Although he was still alive, he was actually no different from a dead person. It was just a matter of going to see the King of Hell a little earlier or later. I couldn't help but sigh. Carter really had a tough life. He managed to escape even from this. It's true to the old saying, good people don't live long, but the wicked live for 1,000 years. However, I won't let him continue to harm others. These beasts, even if the King of Hell doesn't want to take them, He has to, kind reminder. 3. Naomi. Aurora, Eleanor, are you crazy? What kind of tricks are you up to again? 2. Among them, Stella was the first to realize that danger was about to come. From the surveillance, I saw Stella quietly moving her body towards the outside without making a sound, as if she was ready to run away at any moment. Stella, Sister Eleanor, Carter and I are just friends. We have nothing between us, and I've never harmed you. Please spare me. Stella privately messaged me in a small window, but I was already too lazy to look at it. 1. As the countdown ended, I lit the 3-stage propulsion firework on the balcony, with a series of firecrackers hanging below it. The firework shot straight up into the air. After hovering for 2 seconds, it made a vertical turn in the air and rushed towards room 1603. Eleanor, through the telescope, I saw Aurora and Naomi let out a wail and then fell to the ground, motionless. Stella was luckier. She had the foresight to hide near the door, although she wasn't. She rolled down the stairs and was seriously injured. She got off lightly. 13. This heavy rain lasted for a whole year. I rubbed my red eyes. Because of my previous actions, no one in this building dared to lay a hand on me. I happily roasted lamb and drank cola at home. It was not until I confirmed that the water level had dropped and the government began to organize rescue efforts that I took out some supplies and distributed them to the remaining people. 3 months later, the water level dropped completely, and the government counted the property damage. After receiving the notice, I remembered that Carter and I were still husband and wife in name, and room 1603 was my property. I went back to the building to take a look. The bodies of Carter's family in the room had already become moldy and stinky, and Stella, I heard that she threw tantrums, sold her body to exchange for food from other families, and was finally beaten to death by the wives of those families joining hands, breathing in the fresh air outside. I lazily stretched my waist. Anyway, everything has nothing to do with me now. In this life, I will live for myself.